Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case, and welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. I appreciate it. A key point to put forwards first of all, if you haven't already watched my earlier video today, make sure to do so, as it looks at Justin Rounds and his response to Candice doing the live Q&A with no thanks. It's an interesting one, okay? So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look back, analysing, breaking it down, giving my response, my thoughts on the live Q&A of Candice Cooley and what she had to say. I do have notes in front of me, so apologies if I do look down quite a bit. I just had to note it all because there's a lot of notes and information, okay? It might be information you've not seen before, or it might reinforce certain ideas you have had about previous things. It might fill in the blanks along the way. As said, you can respond and react to what I'm going to present to you in the live chat. Leave your thoughts, opinions, and in the comment section as well. If you've got additional points to make, feel free to do so. If you've got any questions like what's that doing over there, they can be answered at some point or some time. That is art, okay? Art. Wow, amazing. It highlights the struggle. It highlights tension and stress. The chair is upside down. You can't sit on it. A Herculean effort to try and mount it comfortably, but not quite accessible. That is amazing. Anyway, less of that. Let's get into the key points, okay? Some might be long, others might be short. I'm only going off from what I've heard, and I can give my additional opinions to them points, okay? So, one of the first things mentioned was with the questions, because it was done like a Q&A. Lots of questions, sent as an email to Doug, or Doug passed them on to Candice, and then read them out and answered on spot. And Candice said when she was reading through them previously, what was said, what was asked was acceptable. There was no negativity, nothing bad or anything like that. It was all good, and she appreciated it. She appreciated the questions, appreciated some of the people on YouTube, which is kind of back and forth there, which we'll get to later on. But you get the idea, overall positive. And she responded to him. And the first points I'm going to, present to you are in response to some of those questions. And I don't directly have the questions, but if you want to look back at the video for reference, feel free to do so, right? So one of the points mentioned was the time spent whilst searching for Dylan. I don't know, it's just down to different locations. Some are closer than others. With Candice, she said she spent 3 weeks looking for Dylan, which is a fair bit of time. I guess going around looking at the farm, the desert surrounding area, and said Justin Rounds spent up to 2 months ongoing, which is a much longer period of time. It might be because of the location he's at, he can do that. But that's it just really highlights the focus and depth of Justin. Going here, going there, staking out for 2 weeks near Saddle Sore Bar, probably walking across parts of the desert, asking around. It just shows how focused and fixed he's on it. Now, some people will say, no shit, that's what anyone would do. But you've got to take in mind if there's other things going on in the background, other things that need to be done, as well as just dealing with the disappearance of Dylan. People react differently. With Justin, he's just going in. So you get the idea of what he's about and him trying his best. Now, if you put that aside, let's get into some of the other key bullet points, okay? And one of the first ones mentioned was to do with the grandma, and I believe the grandma is called Karen Rounds. The granddad is called Larry Rounds. And Candice said that the grandma was the one that received a call from Dylan on the 28th. Okay, talking about the grain truck being put in the grain shed, him sounding a little bit like, oh shit, I need to go and do it before it gets ruined, because you don't want the seeds getting wet. So there's nothing out of the ordinary there. It just helps reinforce, we need consistency with certain information, and with Candice confirming the 28th was the last known phone call made, and it was towards a grandma, that helps us understand better. And for some people may not know about that, so that should help. But another key point that was mentioned, which was interesting, was Candice said the grandma who helped Dylan in the past get the farm. So the farm Dylan was working on, and up to his disappearance, the grandma helped him. Now, there were some points mentioned in the past by others saying, yeah, the grandparents did help Dylan out in some way or another. And I don't know how exactly to get the farm. Was it having the contacts, reaching out to other people that would make the process of getting the farm easier, maybe? Or is it just simply financially loaning money to Dylan, so it's easier for him to get like a start into the whole situation and farming business, possibly? It does make you question though, did the parents, like the grandparents, did they look out for Dylan more than the parents? What I mean by that is, like, did they go behind the parents' back often to try and help assist Dylan? We saw it with Dylan's disappearance, how the grandparents hired that PI, the private investigator, Jim Terry, which didn't go down too well with the mother, Candice. So actions like that, and then with the whole farm situation in the past, grandparents stepping in, people previously, just viewers mentioned about, oh, I wonder if the grandparents were trying to get Dylan onto a farm away from the parents because of certain negative things going on physically in the household in the past. Well, that's just like a theory, but you get the idea how the grandparents being brought into conversations here and there, and now Candice confirming that, the grandma did help Dylan previously with the farm. So you can leave your thoughts down below. What do you think about that? And so on. Now, the next key point is to do with Candice acknowledging the posters having differing dates. If you remember, I did do a video about that in recent time, and it was kind of interesting, like how it was brought up in this video too. But I think she might have seen it way back in the past, but I guess just questions came in recent time regarding it. And she said about how in recent time she apologised for getting certain dates wrong. 28th should have been the 30th when they actually went there looking for Dylan, and she apologised. It's one of those things where, she only can do so much. She can't be 100% accurate all the time. It'd be too messy, and it just wouldn't be practical or possible. So it is worth understanding that. But in terms of the posters overall, when you look at start to finish, the oldest to the newest, as said, the dates were very up and down, back and forth, and it was like there wasn't a consistency. Even with the latest posters, it kind of went back on certain stuff, cancelled other things out, and it's like, that really doesn't help. Candice's response to those was, we didn't make them. It's other random people out there that, created them, so it's because they probably lack information, have heard other misinformation, and are confused. So if it was by the parents, they would have made sure it was more accurate. So I guess that kind of clears that up. In terms of the posters, I mean, they were shared on Facebook by, I think, maybe certain Rounds family members in some way. So maybe they shouldn't have shared them if they were incorrect. If they know the dates, then why were they sharing those posters at times? It is worth taking into mind that. Like, what are your thoughts about that? But yeah, there's not too much I can say about that. She was just simply saying that, yeah, there will be mistakes made along the way, and the people that created them, it was other random people out there. So there you go. Yeah. Then the next part, just confirming that the boots were found on May 30th when Candice was actually there exploring the farm. Just a little point that was mentioned. Just like reinforce it to some of you if you were wondering when the boots were directly found. They were found on the 30th of May. Next one. Dylan seeded 1 pivot. So do you like when people were saying about, I think this is more to do with the Friday night. So the 27th, if I'm correct in saying, Friday night, coming back from Saddle Sore Bar, and then late at night doing the seeding near to his property, I think, or it could be near to the grain shed, either one. And the question was, how much did he seed, or how many acres did he cover? And Candice said Dylan seeded 1 pivot. Okay, I assume that's that circular one. So just 1 of those. And I did see one. I don't know if it was near to the grain shed or near to Dylan's place of living, but there was 1 big circular pivot where things would be planted. And you would have seen it yourself if you've checked Dylan's TikTok page, as he did record himself on the pivot, which I assume is the same location where he seeded at night time. Now, I assume, as said, this is to do with the 27th. I assume that's the case. If not, you can correct me down below. But she did butt in towards that and said, it's irrelevant anyway, that thing about the seeding. It's irrelevant. And you will notice if you watch the video, because I watched the full 2 hours, I know, fuck me. But like, it does make you think, you know, while she's saying that's irrelevant and that's irrelevant, could it be of some importance? Possibly. I mean, like with the whole seeding and the pivot, you know, if the pivot is big, it would have required effort and time, focus. And if it's done at night time, when he's tired, you know, fatigued, that can play a big role. You know, if he was only just seeding a small little field or a small little square patch, it won't take as much toll on the body. And it's important because it's the lead up to when Dylan went missing. You need to know what condition he was in, how much energy he had, or how fatigued he was from doing the seeding. So it isn't irrelevant at the end of the day. It all plays a part in the timeline. But with Candice, you know, throwing this away and throwing that away, you can put the point forward and say she knows better. She knows what's what. Yeah, but you know, I'm sure there's some small points which still have some value and worth, even if they are chucked to the side. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you think about it, because let me know when you're watching the video, when Candice is talking, do you think she says that's irrelevant quite a few times? Because I seem to pick up on it myself. I want to know your thoughts, okay? Let's move on to the next key point, response to a question, and it's to do with the whole money thing. So Candice corrected it and said it wasn't 33k, it was 32k, $32,000, which Dylan earned from custom farming. Now, I don't know if it's directly to do with a farmer called Dan in the past or somebody else, but with Dylan doing the custom farming, going to other farms, and I think this was before he had his own farm, correct me if I'm wrong, doing work, seeding, doing the crops, all that typical farm stuff, and he got paid for it and got a reasonable amount. And you know, his work ethic, his attitude was praised and appreciated by the likes of a farmer called Dan and maybe some others in between. So it was all acknowledged, and what came with the hard work came with the money earned. Now, what Candice said is she something to do with she made the bills for Dylan. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it was just worded badly, but maybe it's to do with she totaled up the cost of equipment, the seeds, how much it all cost to then do and buy. And then so Dylan knew how much he had to pay and then do the job and then get paid back. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's a bit messy, that one. Just a random point I just wanted to throw in with the whole money situation. Moving on to the next one, Friday. Now this is an important one. Friday, May 27th. You see how it follows from the pivot to the money buying seeds in the past, but now moving on to Friday, May 27th, more relevant time to Dylan's disappearance. And Candice said on May 27th, there was witnesses camping out within the area that saw Dylan's tractor lights turned on, so they were being used by Dylan at 11:30 at night to 11:45. So is that to do with at the pivot doing the seeding, or is that something completely different? Either way, witnesses saw Dylan doing the seeding, doing farm-related work late at night on May 27th. You know, earlier on, he was out at the bar, Saddle Saw Bar Montello. He came back and then started to do the seeding. 11:30 to 11:45, you know, late at night, but in terms of the timing, it didn't take that long. Maybe that's because the people camping there only saw it for so long, or they literally saw the whole thing unfold and then saw the tractor turn its lights off and then they thought, oh, that's it, he's finished. But either way, it's interesting how there were people out there, general public, in the area that saw Dylan late at night doing what he did. And it seemed okay, everything seemed fine then. Let me know your thoughts about that stuff. Do you think the witnesses are being truthful? Is there any more people out there? That's what we've got to look at. And as said, it was worded by Candice as eyewitnesses camping out there. I assume in trailers and not tents. And if they're camping out there, I assume they're not regulars. They're just visiting temporarily. Makes you wonder why though. Why would they be camping out there if they're not farming or anything like that? But yeah, it must be kind of weird seeing Dylan, but not literally because he's probably a distance away in a vehicle, but operating late at night, must be in the dark, I guess, with the lights being on, and him just doing what he did at that time. So it's demanding itself, but it's also kind of spooky to see the person as they are doing a normal thing, what they've always done, and then a couple of days later or a day later, something bad happens to him. It does make you think, the witnesses camping out there, how long did they camp out there for? Was it just for a few days? Were they still there the following day and the day after when Dylan went missing? Did they see anything else happen after that? I don't know, because it wasn't mentioned in the video, but it's important, don't you think? Don't you think it's important that if there's witnesses out there, you need to know how long they were out there for, and if they remained out there, just in case they saw anything else unfold. You know, I think it does stand out, that one. That is definitely a key point. So let's move on to the next point mentioned, and it's to do with the reward money. You know, at first it was like $20,000, the reward money. People are associating that with Kurt Wadsworth calling in, doing a tip-off. I think we can get into that a bit later. And then they upped it to $100,000, there was an agreement, and Candice confirmed that $100,000 was from the family. So it's probably as a whole. Grandparents put some money up, the mother, the father put some money in, and maybe some other people here and there, other family members. So collectively, most likely. Quite a big chunk of money, considering it's just a missing person. I mean, you tie it in with the whole FBI most wanted list of maybe terrorists and other people like that. Similar amount of reward money, maybe a bit more. So it just shows the importance and how much it means to the family. People will say no shit, but I'm just pointing it out anyway, okay? What else? Later on, Candice did mention that she had no clue who Chase Venstra was. This is tying in with the day Dylan met Chase Venstra, okay? Dylan driving along down Tacoma Road, sees Chase coming from somewhere, bloodied, no shoes on. Dylan picks him up, takes him to Montello. But at the time, or shortly afterwards, when Dylan told his mother, Candice, he just said, a guy showed up in blood and I left him. I just drove on. And as Candice said herself, reiterating, remirroring what Dylan would be thinking at the time, was, you didn't tell me the person's name or the exact situation of what actually happened picking him up, because it would scare her. It would make her probably lecture him and tell him off and stuff, and it was for that, and kind of for her mother's safety, didn't want to worry her. So that makes sense. Candice said, though, when finding out it was Chase Venstra, I think it was like some kind of conversation between Jim Brenner, Kurt Wadsworth and Candice. It just seems a bit weird how, like, what, they all got together confirming it was Chase Venstra? Like, if certain people hate each other or are a bit suspicious of one another or, you know, suspects within the case, and yet they're all getting together talking, supposedly from the way Candice worded it, it's like, should you be doing that? Literally being in the presence of a potential killer or in the presence of other dodgy people that have done dodgy things in the past, suspicious activity, and yet you're all collectively saying, oh yeah, it was Chase Venstra. I don't know, it just seems a bit weird how they were communicating at some point. But, you know, aside from that, you know, Chase Venstra, he's still in question. Even though he's been, you know, put aside, never classified as being a suspect within the investigation by the police, for some reason, there's just certain unanswered questions and, you know, thoughts with Venstra, how he could be involved in some way or another with Dylan, you know. And I made the question previous in one of my last videos when I did it on Chase Venstra. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already. It was a couple of days ago, again. I said, if Dylan never came across Chase Venstra, would Dylan still be alive now? Or is it just completely unrelated and it wouldn't have made a difference? Leave your thoughts in the chat. Now transitioning on from the questions to Candice freely talking now, because that's how the conversation shifted within the live stream. Answer all the questions first and then like free verse talk randomly and share different thoughts and opinions, okay? So what was mentioned was like the sheriff, the sheriff's wife, the treatment towards Candice, the whole drama and situation regarding that photo posted on Facebook about Sheriff Potter and his wife talking to Candice, and Candice just simply posted online and said, leave your own thoughts, what do you think, how does it appear, the situation? And obviously people did respond. I made my video, broke it down, looked at the behaviour and body language and all of that. Candice didn't really do anything. All she did was, hey, check this out, leave your thoughts and opinions, and that was it. And yeah, I guess the sheriff's wife and certain people weren't too pleased with that, so it caused a bit of confrontation, conflict and all that. I guess it's dampened down now, but it was just mentioned in the video. And they're also referring back, Candice talking about that press release by Box Elder County, how they said they were gonna, you know, post it publicly, and yet it never happened and they're still waiting. So it's yet just another typical letdown and lies by Box Elder County, which isn't great. But when you look back at all the other stuff, it's like, well, it's almost like a pattern. Now, an interesting point Candice mentioned, and it was to do with the conversation of people in Lucin, but also Montello. Like, I think Doug mentioned about, you know, is there more bad people than good people in those areas? Is it just full of criminals? What's your thoughts and feelings about that? And what Candice said was, well, it's a matter of an opinion of what's considered bad or like bad crimes. That's basically what she said. In other words, Candice is saying, yeah, there will be good people in Montello and maybe Lucin too. And that the people that are bad, that are doing bad actions, I mean, is it really that bad what they're doing? I guess it's up for debate. Some people may say it's really bad, other people, to me, well, it varies. That doesn't sound right. Just remember, if you've got groomers, you've got people doing inappropriate actions and behaviour towards certain people of a certain age, you've got a school there, you've got Ty Corbin who's, you know, shared stories about how females in Montello from a young age are mistreated and go through a lot of trauma, damage, and it leads to long-term lasting effects and changes in their behaviour and how they perceive things around and what they see as normal behaviour when it shouldn't be normal. And then you've got people being attacked for no reason, being stalked, people looking through windows. You've got the likes of Troy Wadsworth, Kurt Wadsworth, Scott Wadsworth doing dodgy things. You got militias with guns, you got drug trade, getting involved in that, caught up. You could get silenced. I mean, is that not bad? Or is that just considered normal? Do you see what I'm saying? The way the mother described it, and other people as well over time, is Montello, it's fine, it's okay, there's crime, but oh well, never mind, it's not that bad, it's not the end of the world. I mean, what would change Candice's response? What, you need like literal babies in the church, the Mormon church, to be like that and everything ripped out? Is that only when it's considered bad? Very, very dodgy language used. Does make me think. Leave your thoughts down below. Definitely leave your thoughts down below with that. So, another point that ties on is the whole thing with good people, no motives, what Candice said. So when it comes to Dylan being taken out, whoever the suspect is, there's no real motive or planned, there's no plan, there's no motive to drive someone to take Dylan out. And it's like, are you sure about that? I mean, what about financial reasons? What about long-term conflict, a grudge being spoken down to, something to do with the gate, conflict, disagreements? If you do believe it's Jim Brenner, if Candice believes it is Jim Brenner, or he's most likely the one, and other people do too, and they also know about his past behaviour, his recklessness, how he can't control himself, random outburst, it does make you think there's a pattern there, and if there's a pattern, then there's almost like a plan of unpredictability. So when you say there's no plan, there's no motive, technically there is. The motive is Jim's, instability and a consistency of that happening over time. It's not just once, it's not just a one-off. It's becoming more of a regular occurrence type situation. So, it's not as unexpected, if you want to call it that, the more times it happens. So that's one way of looking at it. And, you yourself who watch the videos and watch others, and you who make notes, I'm sure you will have motives yourself, ideas of motives to why certain people might have done bad things to Dylan. So you can't just write off and say there's no motives whatsoever, like Candice said. I do feel that there could be some kind of motive, even if it's small scale, short term, there's something going on, I feel. Leave your thoughts down below. As said, the other point was mentioned that Brenner, the main suspect, based on evidence. And that's a key point, what Candice said, evidence. We saw in the East Idaho News Channel previously, where she said, there's new evidence regarding the case, I think regarding Jim Brenner, but we can't reveal it at this moment in time. And she kind of reiterated those points in Doug's live video last night about there's new evidence tied with Brenner, but we can't release it yet. So that's a good thing. It seems to highlight that there's progression made, and it's slanting more towards Jim being the suspect, being the guilty one. So that could lead to a successful conviction down the line. It could all tie in with that court date in October, which is all good. But you got to ask yourself, okay, all this evidence, who were the ones that collected it? Was it Box Elder County? Considering you've criticised them previously and how they've dealt with things and treated you, and yet if they are the ones who have found this new evidence, can you even rely on it? Be hopeful of it? They've treated previous evidence badly, not been done that well, has it? Some things dismissed, other things forgotten about. So what and how important is this new evidence? How valid is it? How reliable is it? Or is it just like all the other stuff in the past, if it's at the hands of Box Elder County, of course. So that's more of a we'll see what happens next situation with Brenner and this evidence. Candice did say if at a point in time where it can be released, she will do so. And I'm sure she will, because it has happened before previously, kind of like the key fob in that whole mess. But I think that was a catalyst and revealed publicly soon then later because of the Ellie effing up. So it was like, well, it's already gone to shit, so we might as well say it now because it's public. So maybe other evidence might take longer if there's no mistakes made. We'll see, okay? Now, in terms of a previous image I analysed in one of my past videos, key point Candice mentioned in the live stream was about the picture of Dylan washing dishes. And that was actually on April 30th, 2022, if I'm correct in saying. Now, that is, it might be 2022, it might be 2021. She didn't give the year, but she gave like the month and the day, April 30th. So correct me if I'm wrong down below. But that was to do with the video I analysed where I said, oh, it looks like it's in a kitchen. It doesn't look like the trailer. It looks to be somewhere else. And it was. It was, I can't remember the name now, something Valley. Oh, shit, I forgot. You'll know, some of you'll know. Not Park Valley, no, it's some other valley place. And it was tied with the farming, I believe. And it was also mentioned about Dan as well, working on a farm with Dan, custom farming. It might all tie in at the same time or so. I don't want to be for certain though, it's just the way things are worded loosely in the video. But basically, I just wanted to give you the date of when that photo was taken, the one of Dylan in the kitchen, washing the dishes, when his clothing, his hoodie, his jeans, his baseball cap, and some of you said, oh, he looks a bit ill or something, he looks a bit pale in the face considering what he does and exposed to the sunlight. You know that photo? Yeah, that's April 30th when it was taken, okay? You know, it's more recent, up-to-date photo then, because as we've seen in the missing person posters, previous photos of Dylan have been when he was younger, and it's like, he might have changed since, you know, he's grown up more, new developments, maybe a change in hairstyle, facial features, stuff like that. So it's good that we had a more up-to-date image and it's been confirmed it's more recent as well by Candice, okay? And tying on from that, with the baseball cap Dylan was wearing in that photo, that was supposedly the same type that Brenna was wearing. Now, different times, okay? So if we travel back further when I did a past video saying, is Jim Brenner wearing Dylan Round's baseball cap to taunt people, psychological warfare, that sort of thing? Right. From what Candice said, Brenner was wearing that long before Dylan went missing. It was just the same type of hat and brand, John Deere, okay? So that helps clear that up. I still assume though that that image of Brenner where you saw him like walking like that in the blue jacket and stuff was a recent photo, though that cap, baseball cap he was wearing, he owned and wore that way before Dylan went missing. I assume that's the way it's worded and what Candice means. It'll be interesting to know, is there any older photos of Jim Brenner in the past, whether it be him wearing that baseball cap to confirm and reinforce that point, or, you know, just an earlier photo of him, just to see what was he like, any differences, any changes, you know, stuff like that. Who knows? It's worth looking back. You know, you're going to use old photos of Dylan, you could use older photos of some of the suspects and then do like a comparison maybe. So it's worth taking that into mind. What do we move on to next? Well, okay, this is another key point. And Doug asked Candice, do you think Box Elder County are corrupt and purposely not making progression to maybe try and aid in helping somebody out there, a criminal? So basically, is Box Elder County corrupt or not? Candice replied and said, I strongly disagree that Box Elder County are corrupt. Maybe it's more to do with them just holding on, because if they let go, they show their mistakes and weakness, and then it could lead to an internal investigation. I think that was worded by Doug in that sense. Maybe, you never know. But do you agree that Candice is correct in saying? I know it's just her opinion, but do you think Candice has a valid opinion or not, considering how she's been treated and she has witnessed and experienced it all, and yet she doesn't think the police are corrupt, but someone like me does? What's the situation there? Is it just because she knows better? Or is it because she might be blinded by something? I don't know, because sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, you might be able to see things better or pick up on stuff other people don't pick up on. So, you know, got to take that into mind. I mean, it just seems likely that Box Elder County are corrupt because, look, let's tie it in because I can on the spot. Boom, here we go. So just recently, and it was recent, in one of my videos when I think, was it my last one or the day before that to do, it might have been my last one to do with Brookie, an update on Brookie, okay? But also Box Elder crime within the area, Box Elder crime, how Box Elder County had dealt with those crimes, arresting males, females, getting a hold of them successfully, getting justice. So they were able to handle those situations, which were, you know, just as serious, if not more, because, you know, it was a proper murder, like, was it first degree? Like, it was premeditated, planned, that type of stuff, and the methods were quite violent too. So, you know, they handled those situations well, dealt with them, was successful. So they can, you know, successfully solve that whilst the people are on the run. Then why can't Box Elder County do the same with Dillon? Is it because one's more important than the other? Or is it because one has no ties, no connections, but the Dillon Rounds one does, which is tied with the police, and they don't want to arrest certain suspects or go directly straight away after them because it will drag them down too if things are revealed and exposed that there's corruption going on within the police. You know what I'm saying? Because why would police delay something, drag something out, lie about things, delay stuff, not be transparent, completely honest with information, drag things out as much as possible, reckless with evidence so that it might become invalid at a point so then it can't be used to press charges against a criminal. All that type of stuff. It's like they don't want progress, they don't want things to move forwards because they're involved in it in some way or covering for someone. And yet Candice doesn't think that whatsoever. How can you not think like that, though? It's still all a matter of opinion, so you've got to take that into mind, but I don't know, it's just like, it just seems too obvious that they're corrupt. Unless something else comes out which cleanses all that suspicion, but up to now, it's not looking good in my mind, and you can leave your thoughts as well. Let's move on to the next point, talking about the whole situation of people going on to the farm. I think it is mentioned again later, but in brief, yeah, it is mentioned right after it. Okay, I can tie it in. So Candice put forward the point about all the people that go out there to Dillon's farm, his place of living, the grain shed, and I guess the surrounding area. Candice basically said anyone going out recording those locations are doing it for the money, for the views, end of, and that's it. So if that's the case, she's basically calling Salty Pancakes out, and could you say she's calling Ty and Lance out? Well, Ty and Lance haven't been that close to the farm. They've been at a distance and kept their distance, so I don't think you can include them. But really, the people that have been out to the farm, there's not really been many. I think it's only been Salty Pancakes, really, in terms of actually recording. I think Kurt might have been there as well at the same time. Leave your thoughts down below. Have anyone else been to the farm since or previous? Leave your thoughts. Do you think Candice is right in what she believes, that anyone out there recording the shed, the farm, the area is doing it for money and views only and not trying to solve the case? I mean, she did mention that as well, that anyone that does go out there in those type of areas and finds things or is just looking around, it means nothing and it won't solve the case whatsoever because police have already been there, people have already searched the area deep. But it's like, okay, that does make sense. If professionals have already been there and looked around, they would have done a deep search. But let's not forget, we're dealing with the LE, also known as Box Elder County, who have been corrupt, dodgy, well, not corrupt, dodgy, and just treating the investigation poorly with evidence, findings, information. So if they can't get the job done too well and are messing up, and they're the ones that did investigate the area, then how do you know that they've not missed things? If they treated the case so poorly and missed things out, then maybe they did leave something behind. The only reason why Candice is still looking up to the LE and saying that, you know, if they would have found something, they would have found something, and because they haven't, or anything additional, then there's no point for you to come. It's because their authority and Candice is looking up to them still, despite everything that's gone on. Okay? Whereas you get a general public lone wolf random individual who just suddenly comes along, or just some other person that comes along, such as Salty Pancakes, documents, records everything, and then it's like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not going to find anything. Maybe he does. Maybe he might. I don't know. Maybe not right now, but at some point. Or maybe Scott Natal. Maybe Ty and Lance. I know they're in different areas and not on Dylan's land, so it might not directly link to what Candice is saying about certain people. But, you know, it's just that idea that when you know how the LE have handled the case, there's no harm in looking back and investigating certain land which has been covered by the LE, because they probably wouldn't have done a good job. That's all I'm saying. I might be wrong, but doesn't it seem like really back and forth? 1 minute Candice is criticising the police for how they've handled things, which is a fair point to make, but then next minute she's defending them when other people come along and question the investigation and how things have been handled. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense, does it? It's a little bit messy. And tying it on, with that land, the grain shed, the farmer Dylan's, it's trespassing. That's what Candice said. And I think Justin Rounds as well muttered it at some point. So the way it was worded, and it was just briefly mentioned about handing trespass notices out there or informing the police. So it does make you think, like, why was it not done earlier then? Like, why not? I mean, if there is a trespass notice or something, some kind of warning, punishment system, if anyone else does go back out there, they're going to get fined? Are they going to get imprisoned? I don't know. Is it private land? Those sort of questions. I mean, doesn't seem to be any restrictions up to now, or at least previous when people went. So it's like, what can you do? And do you think implementations will take place of putting out warnings, fines, if people do step the line, the border? Or is it too late now, considering the investigations have, you know, been looked at there, things have been taken away, people have gone there, documented it, and it's like, well, there's nothing more left to do. And I don't think too many more people are going to go if it's already been covered. So is it too late to be putting out these notices? That's a question in itself. So yeah, a bit later on in the live stream, because, you know, there's certain points mentioned here and there which aren't as important or stand out. It went on about the Kurt situation, about you know, the call with Dylan being held hostage in Montello, and Candy said that was the 31st. It was the 31st of June, I believe. 31st. No, 31st of May, I assume. Yeah, I'm shit with dates, okay? I'm shit with dates. But the 31st is when Kurt received a psychic tip. So I don't know if that was via a phone call, an in real life meeting, or an email, but Kurt received information from a bloody psychic about Dylan being held hostage in Montello by Robert Avilés. Okay. Obviously Kurt was like, decided to phone Candice about it. Kurt phoned Candice and said, you know, you got to come down here. You know, Dylan is held hostage. And that's like how it was worded. And obviously they got the attention, eventually got the police's attention. They all came down and it was a false lead. Okay. So that's just confirming that for you, as well as the date when it occurred, the 31st. That's when it all unfolded, on that one day. Now, tying on from that, Candice did, well, I think it was Doug that brought up the point about the key fob situation, the whole decoy. Now, it wasn't worded like that. That's the concept I've created previously, and I might be one of the only few people that actually specifically covered it in an individual video beforehand about that whole situation. And I'll put forward it once again so you know and it rejogs your memory, when I heard about the whole key fob situation on Namus, when that mistake was made, publicly revealed when it shouldn't have been, about the key fob being returned, I tied it in with the concept that because it occurred on the same day Kurt Wadsworth phoned in, told Candice about Dylan held hostage, I thought, it's one big decoy. Get everyone away from the farm. The parents, the police, search and rescue, whoever. Get them all down to Montello, so now the farm of Dylan's is empty. And then whoever, such as Kurt, could drive to, Lucin and put the key back in the trailer or wherever it needed to be placed. That's what I brought up. Now, in the Doug live stream last night, Candice replied to Doug's question and said she does wonder about it. She definitely thinks there's a possibility that there's some kind of dodginess going on with Kurt and the key fob, that it wasn't there beforehand, it wasn't hidden anywhere, it turned up on that day of when they all, were taken out of the place to go to Montello. So Candice does agree with that to an extent. So that's interesting, right? It throws Kurt Wadsworth back into the picture, where at times some people might have dismissed him. So there is still suspicion around all of that, and I guess we'll see what happens next. As for the pickup truck, kind of a bit all over the place. That Candice was saying, the seat was pushed forwards, it was in all-wheel drive when they came across it. That's odd, that stands out definitely. And that she did have to move the seat back and take it out of all-wheel drive to be able to drive it back, or for a friend to drive it back. And it was like, well, they were just allowed to. That was the problem. The police said, you go on, do what you need to do. And it's like, this is Dylan's truck. There's probably evidence in it, and you're just allowing us to do whatever with it. Not exactly professional, right? So that's what Candice was getting at. And she also saying that there was evidence that was dismissed, like fingerprints on the steering wheel, on the gear stick. And the police just, brushed over it. Literally like, no, it's not of importance. There's nothing there. And it's like, well, there should be, because someone would have drove it or got in at least to be able to adjust certain things in the vehicle. And yet it was like, oh well. And Candice said herself, despite certain points, she doesn't really know. She doesn't exactly know, like with the whole truck situation. So evidence, progression made, setbacks, debunkings. It's just like, I don't know. That's not good either. I mean, it makes sense for us to be like that, but for the family as well, it just goes to show that it's just a complete mess, to be fair. Now, move on to the next point, and it's kind of another key quote, okay? So be ready for this. So she just randomly said at some point, well, we're not criminals. And the only reason why I brought that up is because not from what I say or what I think, but what other people have said. And it wasn't mentioned in this video or cleared up, so it might as well be brought back to people's attention, is, okay, so Candice and her family believe they're not criminals, and yet other people have said that Candice has stolen money from a business in the past and stole quite a bit. If that's true, isn't that a crime, right? It's not like a good thing to do, right? And yet she's just saying, no, we're perfectly fine, we've not done anything wrong. Well, you can leave your thoughts in the chat or anywhere. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think the parents are clean, they're not criminals? Or do you think the mother might be, if you believe that she stole money in the past? It just wasn't talked about in the live video or question, so it's like, it's worth bringing up once again until it is cleared up, I guess, maybe. But I said, it's not coming from my mouth, it's just what other people have said, okay? And if you're here right now, you can leave your thoughts and opinions to why you think that way. It's welcome, okay? Moving on to the next point, and it's tying back to the whole pickup truck of Dylan's. Candice said that the grandparents brought a spare key fob to help get the truck moving, to start it up, ignition, so then they could drive on, move it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and I'm going to explain. So Candice was patient enough to wait for the grandparents to come down with a spare key fob so then they could move the vehicle. Based off what's previously happened on the 30th or round about then, when Candice went down to Dylan's place of living, his farm, and broke into his vehicle. She broke into his vehicle, okay, to get inside. And for what? Doesn't it contaminate, ruin, spoil any evidence whatsoever that could be on the doors, the windows, prints, anywhere on the vehicle? Doesn't it contaminate that, right? Why do you need to break into the vehicle? You can look through the windows. Dylan's not in there. So why do you need to break in? And it's that concept now I've known from the way the events have unfolded, that Candice broke into the vehicle and then patiently waited for the key fob to be delivered, the spare one, so then she could, turn the car on. If you're going to break into the vehicle, you might as well bloody hotwire it at the same time. Like how criminals do when they're stealing a car. There might be certain conditions, though, which might explain why she didn't, but you know what I'm saying? What's the point being so reckless and impetuous and then suddenly acting patient once you get in? It's like, the damage has been done. You might as well just hotwire it now. It doesn't make sense, does it? Let me know your thoughts. It doesn't make sense, it's just a bit weird. Tying on with Dylan's gun. His shotgun, yes, is still present. But his main gun, his sidearm, his pistol, his handgun has not been found yet. So the mobile phone is still in question. The wallet, the card has not been found. Dylan's gun has not been found. So it does make you think, those 3 items, where are they? Are they all in one place with one person, or have they been scattered about? It does make you think. And were those 3 items on Dylan at the time of when he went missing? That's what you got to ask yourself. Or were all the items on Dylan when he got maybe ambushed or attacked? Because they said that Dylan has his spare gun or his handgun. Is it in his trailer or in his vehicle? One or the other. Okay. So supposedly he doesn't wear it around like on a holster. Okay. In terms of his wallet, I can't imagine him having it in his pocket if he's doing farming. You know what I'm saying? You might lose it. It might drop out. You're not going to make any transactions whilst you're in the fucking desert, are you? Like, no buildings around. And the phone, he might even leave that behind. If he's a farmer and he's really focused, he's really determined, he's going to leave all the other items behind and just gets on with the job so he doesn't lose anything. There's no interruptions, no phone calls, nothing like that. So if the gun's in the trailer, then so is the wallet probably, and so is the phone. So if this is what we've got to ask ourselves, and it's critical, if the most important items that are missing, and they also just so happen to originally be in the trailer all in one place, then it seems likely that the confrontation, the showdown, the ambush, the conflict all occurred at Dylan's place of living, his farm, where his trailer is. It wouldn't really make sense. Well, I don't know, maybe you could make a point. But if it happened at the grain shed, he was taken out there, then what? Did the suspect go all the way back 5 miles east to Dylan's trailer to then grab his phone, his wallet, his gun? No. Why would you take the gun after Dylan has been taken out? Surely you'd used a gun on Dylan at the time. And if it's used at the time and it's in the trailer with the wallet, with the key, then it must have all happened there. You see what I'm saying? I don't think really people have brought that point up before. in terms of where all the items were located at the time of the bad event? All in one spot, or were they spread out? Were they on Dylan when he was taken out, or were they at a location which Dylan was visiting, such as going back to his trailer? So leave your thoughts down below. Very important question, that. Okay. Some other little points mentioned about the oil and grease was still in or on his truck. Okay. There was talks about Kurt complaining about Dylan's vehicle being messy, untidy, all dirt everywhere, and yet supposedly when Candice was there looking at the truck of Dylan's, it was still messy and dirty, so it wasn't power washed in that sense. I guess that's the way it's worded. What else? This is another point, another key point, and this is linking back to Box Elder County, the dodginess of them. Candice was told that Box Elder County does not have the capacity, and it's to do with not having any drones, not having the tech to be able to operate. But it was a lie, because they did have high-end drones, but they weren't brought to the scene of the crime to be used. They didn't bother bringing them. So they lied about not having the tech when they do, but they also were incompetent in taking it to, make use of their resources for the best outcome, and yet they didn't. So once again, it's obvious from the looks of it that they've got items which could help, but they're like, no, we don't want to use them because then it would make the case too easy, or it would solve it quicker maybe. Oh, we need to drag things out. That's how it appears, and yet Candice is still kind of defending the LE in a way. So you can leave your thoughts to that. What else? Supposedly there are still items that can't be released. Who knows what that is, but I guess that's tying in with the evidence of it being linked with Jim Brenner, I guess. Certain items. It could be a screwdriver, it could be a gun, it could be a shoe, a hat, who knows, anything, which then could be linked to Brenner and the scene of the crime. But it's just a matter of, I guess, we'll wait, we'll see what happens next if that information is released at a point in time. So we'll just have to wait for that. Next key quote, key line, what Candice said was, "We're trying to preserve evidence." Hello? You're trying to preserve evidence? So why did you break into the vehicle then? That didn't preserve evidence. And, well, I don't think it's fair to say this, but I'll just loosely say it. If there are certain vehicles which were handed back, or even before being tested, and the police or some department or authority said, yeah, you can take it now, or I'll just go off, take it, do whatever, shouldn't the parents have been like, no, we're not going to move it. We're not going to touch it until you see to it, until you do a thorough check. But they didn't. But, if they were lied to, then you can't blame the parents there. It just depends on the situation. But in terms of the vehicle itself, breaking into Dylan's truck, that's not preserving evidence. So it's a little bit hypocritical, that, is it not? Now, anything else? Another key point, and people mentioned it previously, people were saying, Dylan's farm is suddenly on sale now. That was quick. That's cold of the family. Candice responded to that question in Doug's live and said, no, it's not for sale, and it has never been. So that basically clears that up. Also, she mentioned that the farm was never taped off, cornered off, nothing like that. No crime scene tape, no barriers, nothing of that. Considering it's classed as a criminal investigation and it's a crime scene of whatever took place, it would make sense to corner it off. So then it might deter people from investigating the place if it's more formal and more serious. If it's just left normal, like if the police weren't there and you just turned up like Salty Pancakes did, you'd be like, oh, nothing has really changed. You wouldn't really know. So then people might still visit the place. But if you know it's under operation investigation and there is some kind of security going on, some kind of deterrent barrier, whatever it may be, it might make people think twice. And yet that wasn't the case. But then again, when dealing with Box Elder County, it's like, is it really a surprise though that they didn't issue this, set this up to make it a bit more formal? I guess not. Now, moving on to the surrounding land, and when they were talking, Doug and Candice mentioned that the nearby landowners, supposedly 9 of them within the area of Lucin, were very welcoming. Now, it was one of those situations where Candice didn't directly respond to Doug's original question of, did the landowners, the other farm hands, the other farmers allow for people to investigate their location, look through the trailers, look through, the buildings and everything nearby? Candice just replied back saying, yes, they were very welcoming. The people who were camping out there welcomed us, asked if they needed anything given, any favours, anything like that. That's not really asking the question. That's referring back to the eyewitnesses who were temporarily camping out there. But what about the actual farmers that may have worked with Dylan in the past, confronted him, seen him in some way if they're on the same land? Candice didn't really give an answer. That's the best way to put it, okay? But, maybe it's worth just looking into again. Next point is Dylan only out in Lucin when he needs to. So this is tying on with the situation with Dylan's trailer. We've seen it. It's a bit of a mess, right? Dusty, cluttered in a way. Drawers or cabinets, cupboard doors, that's it, left open. Items left on the side. Things have expired. It's like, whoa, what is going on here? And, it partially ties in with maybe his age, what he's like, but also, him with his farming. Candice said that with Dylan, he would come and go. Like with eating, he just randomly grab something, leave remains of food on the side, even if it's not exactly appropriate or hygienic, is that a word? And you just grab some food and then go out and farm like that. So with him not spending that much time in the trailer, it's probably not going to be looked after that well, and it kind of looks messy too. And additionally, linking on from the whole thing, he's only in that location farming when he needs to. So when he doesn't have to farm, he's not living there. From what Candy said, he pivots in like a triangle almost. Is that the correct word? Pivot, triangle? 2 different things, I don't know. He goes from like farm to certain places in Lucin to Justin to Candy's place of living, because Justin and Candice live separately because they're no longer married, so they're in different locations. And I guess just Dylan visits each household at different points in times to get away from it all, because if you wouldn't be in Lucin living in that trailer when it's small, it's cramped, it's in the middle of nowhere, there's not much going on. You could go a bit loopy maybe, I don't know. So getting away from it, having a break, that type of thing. And he's only out there when he needs to be, when he's passionate about filling deadlines, getting stuff done, like that. So that can tie in with the state of Dylan's trailer in a way. Is there anything else? Yeah, that was your thing. It was said that Don and Jim Brenner were living on that land before Dylan arrived. So, as we know, Don and Jim Brenner have been long-term friends in the past, so that would explain that. And with Dylan coming along, the new person on the block, could he have been a target from the beginning? Maybe not, but if you've already got people living there, forming bonds, connections, understandings, and Dylan just suddenly comes in, it's like, does he fit in? Is there anything going on behind the scenes? I wouldn't say so. Maybe you might think different. You can leave your thoughts down below regarding that. I just wanted to point it out just so you knew about Don, because, okay, with Brenner being in Montello originally, being in that trailer, 2019 was it? It was still there, but then after that, it was burnt down. He eventually moved into Lucin. I assume that's before Dylan even got there. And Don was already there before Brenner, maybe? Maybe it was that way round. I've still not found Don's place of living yet on the maps. Can't seem to find that location. I don't know if it's a trailer or an actual farm. It must be a trailer. But yeah, just like little points like that, it's worth adding in, like fill in the timelines in between. The next point, moving on, Dylan wanted to buy the grain shed. So Doug brought the question up about, does Dylan want to expand? Does he want to buy more land, have more control of certain areas? And Candice said, yeah. And one of the examples mentioned was Dylan wanted to buy the grain shed because he didn't own it. He was using it, but he didn't own it. He hasn't bought it, but he wanted to. And there was like points mentioned in that live video of, you know, what about Jim Brenner? If he's squatting on the land, what happens to him? Does Dylan let him stay there in a friendly way because he's helped out? So reward him in some way. Don't just get rid of him like that because it wouldn't be fair. Or would he have done? It's unknown. Could it have annoyed Brenner? Could Brenner have wanted to own the grain shed so he had a bit of power behind him? But because he was lacking it and he found that Dylan was stepping on his territory, in a way of speaking, that Jim felt threatened, didn't like being overrun, you know? Just like how Brenner was like when it came to the search and rescue and police snooping around his trailer and, you know, area. I don't know if you can directly call it his area, but near where he lives, the grain shed, and he was getting frustrated and annoyed, so they had to move away and go to the pond area and Dylan's trailer and look there instead. So if Brenner was getting frustrated when outsiders came in and was on his land or his area of living, and he saw that as an annoyance, then it might have been even worse and more intense for him beforehand when an actual person that lives there was considering buying the land he was staying on. You know, he might have either thought, oh no, I can't be moved, I don't want to move. How do I stop it? Or, oh, I'm sick of this person, you know, talking down to me because he's young and now he's taking over this land, he's taking over this, he's taking over that. What do I have? I want something. I want to own this. I'm the caretaker of this shed. I want to remain in control. And this person is taking over, so I need to put a stop to it. So then he acts and takes Dylan out. You see, it could be jealousy. It could be because he feels threatened. Power dynamics lacking. So different factors and motives there, if it's to do with, if providing Brenner knew Dylan wanted to buy the grain shed, because that's a key point. Let me know what you think about that, because I think, yet again, another important question. So, yeah, what else was there? Brenner, Dylan stayed at Candy's backyard. Okay, so once again, differing information. You know, in the past, we've heard of talks in recent time about Dylan previously, you know, like custom farming, working for others, alongside Brenner. They are farm chasers, where they go from place to place in order of work and payment, I guess that's how it's worded. And when we heard about Brenner and Dylan Rounds living together in a motel or hotel for 2 months, Candice responded to that in the live video and said, well, actually, it was in our backyard. That's not a hotel motel. That's literally staying in a trailer of either like a friend, or family members, or their own if they've taken it with them. So that doesn't really make any sense. People said they were in Montello at a hotel motel, and yet now Candice is saying, no, they were at ours. 2 completely different places. Can you confirm? Can you reinforce? You yourself give your thoughts on that, because it just seems a bit wonky all over the place. What's going on? I mean, I did briefly hear about the whole backyard situation in the past, but I thought that was a separate occasion to when they were custom farming, and then maybe before that or after that, then they moved to Montello to do some more farming elsewhere and stayed together. Either there's been some kind of misunderstanding there, or it was literally at the backyard of Candice. I'm not too sure, just the way it was worded, okay? What's the next point? Don and Dylan. Okay. So, despite the falling out they had, the arguments of how to do things, the best way to do them, you've got experience versus experience, but with differing ages, maybe. I mean, Don owns or owned a trucking company in the past. So I don't know if Don was also a farmer at some point, because trucking is a little bit different to farming. I mean, they can link over one another, but they're not literally the same thing, are they? So, was there a few cross wires? Was there a confrontation between Don and Dylan, like the whole washing machine situation of, oh, you've messed it up, you've broken it, or, oh, you should have put it on that cycle, you should have put it on dry rinse, whatever. I'm not an expert with washing machines, but you get what I'm saying. But what Candice said, that Don and Dylan would have likely have patched up, made up, not made up in that way, but patched up, tied up any loose ends, and then started working together once again. That's if Dylan never went missing. So, is that a good thing? I mean, it possibly highlights that Don is less of a threat if they were going to work together again, once again, all happy and fine. So she must have some kind of gut feeling about that, depending how you look at it, maybe. What else was there? They were talking about the phone call situation. So this is linking back to the 28th of May, okay? So when Dylan made that final phone call to the grandma, Karen Rounds, if I'm correct in saying the name, there was no sign of worry. Okay, he sounded a bit rushed, like, oh shit, I've got to, get my grain truck in the shed before it rains down, Oh, I'm in a bit of a rush here. That was classified as normal behaviour because he's been known to do that before. That's what Candice stated. He'd be in a rush, he'd come and go, just like with the whole eating situation at his trailer. Grab something, leave remains on the side, and go off and do whatever. Rushed off his feet. Not enough time to just sit down, communicate with someone, because he's always at it throughout the day. So that's what Candice was referring to, and in the phone call with the grandma, and I guess grandma passed it on to Candice, there was no sign of worry. There was no concern in Dylan's voice at the time. He didn't seem off or any different to how he normally is. So that's interesting. As well, the calling back. So when Dylan said on the 28th, I'll call you back later, he never did. And then people got suspicious the day after or so, because he would normally respond back. But then again, Candice said in that live video with Doug it was normal for Dylan not to call back at times if he's busy doing things. He might be forgetful, absent-minded a little bit if he's dealing with other stuff and more important things. So that's worth taking in mind. But isn't that a little bit of a contradiction? If it's normal for Dylan not to call back, then why did the family get suspicious the day after he didn't make a call back? You know what I'm saying? It kind of cancels one out over the other. Leave your thoughts on that, what you think. Additionally, what else? Sunday/Monday, that was after Dylan went missing, okay? So Friday was the 27th, the 28th was Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday following that was when Don and Jim went searching. So it was one of those situations, what Candy said, it wasn't 100% confirmed. She wasn't there to see it happen. I think it's still tied with the grandparents when the grandparents contacted Don, and then Don contacted Jim to go out and then start looking for Dylan, either on a Sunday or Monday. But it's still not 100% confirmed, so it's a little bit dodgy, that. But I guess Candice words it that way because she wasn't there at the time to witness it. Makes sense. But then if the grandparents were involved in getting Don Jim to help, then they should know, right? Or do they not know? Are they confused because they weren't there either? And they were just supposedly told that they were out there by Don and Jim. I mean, ties back to what I said previously, that if Don and Jim, or Don or Jim, if they are the suspects, the ones responsible for Dylan's outcome, it's like the question of, are they just going along with it? Are they going along with the assistance and helping because if they didn't, it would appear dodgy, you know. Whether you are responsible for the disappearance of someone or not, if you know someone, you could be possibly seen as a witness. If you live in the area, you could be seen as a witness. And especially if you're a suspect or you know yourself you are responsible, what's the best way to lower the heat level to make you less bad, less suspicious? It's to appear good, helpful, and show communication and be cooperative towards others. So go out there as soon as possible, look for Dylan, appear as the hero, appear as the caring individual. But, you know, as long as there's no one present or around, you know, you can just make the call and say, yeah, I'm out here right now. Yeah, I'm searching around whilst just being sat in a chair and thinking, yeah, whatever. You know, was there any witnesses there to see Don and Jim actually walking around and searching? Or is it just based off what was said in on the phone conversations? It does make you think, doesn't it? So, yeah. Anything else? Yeah, this is an interesting point. So I didn't quite understand it in terms of the charges, the other stuff, but basically Candice said Brenner, the only reason why he's in prison right now is because Brenner was charged with that .22 caliber rifle, and that's it. So all the other guns, no charges from the looks of it, and anything to do with Dylan, no charges whatsoever. Just the .22 caliber rifle, which was stolen from somebody else's property that owed Brenner money. He stole the rifle because he wanted it, he liked it, maybe it was a bargaining chip, handed it over to Don Hatley. Don Hatley eventually, not immediately because he did store some guns, but eventually handed the .22 caliber rifle over to the police or the FBI and did an interview and then grassed Jim up. So, whilst all the blame and focus is being put on Brenner, if it wasn't for that .22 caliber rifle incident, he would still be free, walking about. You know? You understand that? So if the likes of the .22 caliber rifle situation never occurred, Brenner, still living in the trailer in the area? And what happens if someone like Salty Pancakes or, you know, another investigator explorer stumbles on the land and comes face to face with Brenner? What happens then? Is there some kind of confrontation? Some kind of conflict? I don't know. It just seems a little bit weird and spooky in a way that, you know, a small-scale gun charge is the only thing that's holding Jim back in prison. You take that away, he's a free man. Wow. It does make me think, though, if Jim Brenner's trailer was taken in for investigation and analysis, and that's what happened. I don't know if the trailer was returned back or not, but it was definitely taken for analysis. If Brenner was never charged, never taken to prison, where would he be living, though? You know what I'm saying? If Brenner was released right now as well, where would he live? Is the trailer back at the grain shed or not? Has it been destroyed? Is it still being held? That's what I want to know. Because would he just move back to Montello, or would he just find another trailer? I mean, he'd be kind of homeless, wouldn't he? If, you know, he wasn't arrested originally, but the trailer was taken for evidence and analysis. Few little points there of interest there. Okay. Anything else? So I think Candy said there was no issues, conflict with Dylan farming. Yeah. So when Candice was referring to like the water disputes within the area and like the whole situation with farming, if there was any like rivalries, competitors, there was none of that competitiveness, no toxic behaviour, nothing like that. You know, like whether it be people, other farmers, people living nearby, they supported Dylan and welcomed him and saw him as a good, kind, helpful person. Because like when it came to like water, fresh water, I don't know if it was spring water, but it was fresh water near the pivot or so, where there was like a tap and he would allow other farmers to come down and fill up their like little crates of water, collection barrels, I don't know what the fuck you call them, and that sort of stuff, and it would, you know, create a positive impression of how people view Dylan. So when you take that into mind, him helping people, and even the likes of Don Hatley and Jim Brenner, giving them work, and then other people in between. Nothing was mentioned about the Mexican workers in this interview, though, or Q&A I should call it. If Dylan was seen as such a positive person and helped other people and other people benefited, it's like, then who else is left that would want to harm Dylan? And that is the big question. And whilst we can still all link back to Jim Brenner, it is worth still taking in mind, is there anyone else out there possibly who had it in for Dylan? A disagreement, a grudge, some kind of conflict maybe, who knows? So we'll move on to the last key notes, okay? Okay. So as I said, in the chat, you can leave your thoughts as we go along. Up to now, what do you think? Do you think the interview is in depth? Were the right questions asked? Did it clear up any of your confusion, or did it add to it? Is there anything that could be reinforced or countered with your own thoughts and opinions? Make sure to leave them down below in the chat and / or the comment section, because everyone will see and interpret things differently. Hopefully up to now the points I've mentioned have been you know, fairly accurate as we've gone along. I mean, yes, I did watch the entire show video, but I just wanted to make brief bullet points so it wasn't too drawn out in a sense. I know some people could say, well, why did you not use footage? I mean, supposedly it was welcome to, but it's just very messy because, you know, up to now, the length of this video itself and all the points mentioned, imagine trying to find the timestamps for every single quote, it'd be too impractical, okay? So I've taken that into mind. Also, apologies if my speech flow isn't as consistent, because that's one, you know, I'm using like bullet points, which normally I never do, so that it's not as free flowing. As well, there's fucking interruptions and distractions in the background. Obviously you can't see, but I can hear and stuff, and it pisses me off at times when, you know, like Roblox barriers, fucking humans try and get in the way of me. So annoying. Earlier there was some people cutting some stuff outside or using some blower, and it's like, come on, like, out of all this time, you only decide to start doing it now. Fuck off, dickheads. Anyway, let's go back to formal Andrew. So to finish off the interview, because it did go on a bit longer after that, but the points weren't as important, okay? So I didn't include that. But the next point Candice brought up at some point within the live stream talk was when Doug brought up about Jim Brenner's trailer in Montello, the burnt down one. Candice does believe that the shovels that were planted in the ground was all staged, fake, all done for like attention, to make it seem like it's something when in reality it's not. Kind of similar to supposedly Salty Pancakes going to Chase Venstra's homestead and then burying that cardboard box with the wires and the Winchester 7mm bullets, okay? That type of setup. Now, if that is the case, then who is responsible? Because yeah, some people have blamed Salty Pancakes for Chase Venstra's homestead, but what about Jim Brenner's trailer? Who's been there? I've not seen Salty Pancakes visit the place, and if he did, he would have likely recorded it, because he's recorded all the other stuff which people have called him out on, so why not the trailer? So I don't think that would link. The only people I've seen who've been there, it could be, the Arizona Traveler. He supposedly went there at some point, but then deleted his videos. I think I'm correct in saying. But aside from that, the only other people that have been there who have recorded and documented it was Lance and Kimber. You saying that they were the ones that put the shovels there and set it all up? Is that what Candice is referring to? Does Candice believe Lance and Kimber put the shovels there and staged it? Or does she think it's somebody else? And why would they stage it? Is it because, like what Candice said, she was screaming at the police to investigate the place back in the past? It was written off. It wasn't seen as a place of interest. So aside from other people coming there and reporting it and, telling the police, like Doug did in one of his live streams, Lance and Kimber when they were first there, maybe that wasn't enough. So by putting the shovels there and then recording it to make it seem like there is something going on, just to be able to get the police's attention to come down and investigate. That could be one way of getting the attention. So it was staged, but how do you interpret it? Do you have on one side someone like Pancakes, Salty Pancakes, staging certain things to make somebody else look bad, but then on the other side you've got certain people staging stuff in a desperate attempt of, in their own thoughts, that this is a key location to investigate, but because other people don't want to come down, such as the police, they've got to go to extreme, not so natural methods of making it seem even more dodgy, so then they can document, record it, report it, and then the police might then come along. You see what I'm saying? I mean, if it is staged, makes you think, where else? Because the more places that become staged, it's like, what do you believe in? I mean, was Dylan's grain shed staged when Pancakes went, or if other people have been in between? You don't know. And whilst you do have all these people coming and going to these different areas, nearby or afar, and recording it, you got to take in mind how many have visited and not recorded whatever they're doing, so they don't incriminate themselves. Because when it came to the Kenny Veach case, okay, you had certain items missing, you had rocks suddenly taken away from a cave or a potential covered up cave, and it's like, who's been here since? Because really no one else should be out here. It's not a place to go strolling and having fun. It's dangerous, it's rough, it's demanding, and the only people that do go there are the people that know about Kenny Veach and / or the M Cave. And yet you've got certain people coming along at a point and you don't know who they are, you don't know what they are or exactly when, and there's no document videos to explain what they're doing. So then it makes you think, are they some kind of secret group? Are they out there to sabotage things, to throw people off the scent, to put people in danger, such as damaging the mine shaft and all of that? Because that did happen. Though in the end, some people did come forth and explain that they were responsible and they were just guys hiking out there. But it's that mystery, the unknown, that there are other people out there doing whatever, but why? And there's no video footage. It's like, is it because they're doing something dodgy? And does that apply to the Dylan Rounds case? Leave your thoughts down below. Do you think in the chat that there are other people out there, aside from everyone having a go at Pancakes, do you think there are other people out there in that area and nearby visiting but not recording any footage and maybe doing some questionable things whilst they're there? So yeah. Anything else? Well, Candice said in the Q&A, the live one, she believes it was a snap moment, not planned, when it came to Dylan being, taken away in some way or another. Whether it be someone like Brenner or somebody else, Chase Venstra, it was just in the moment. He took the moment, not planned whatsoever. I mean, possibly. There can still be a motive, though, if it's a long-term building grudge or dissatisfaction, some kind of an annoyance, building, or something happens in the heat of the moment, which then triggers a past feeling or thought of negativity, and then that ignites and is the turning point. So there is still a motive, a deep-rooted one, possibly. Who's the most likely person to just snap like that? Well, it would be Jim Brenner because of his past history, but Chase Venstra can snap as well, just as capable. So, you can't just focus on one. You got to look at the other person too. So yeah, that's kind of worth doing. Anything else? That during is it called Memorial Day? Some kind of like holiday thing. When they were having a barbecue, Dylan was too busy seeding planting seeds from what Candice said, and I'm sure there would have been like a phone call exchange to explain that to what he was doing at the time. Candice also said Dylan was known to miss birthday parties and stuff because he was really focused on farming. So it does show he's passionate, he's focused. You could argue he might have been a little bit obsessed, but you know, he was successful up to a certain point. But you know, it makes you think, with that barbecue going on, how many people were there? You had friends, you had family, people visiting for the weekend, friends of family and all that. Kurt Wadsworth would have been there, and I assume this is all in Montello, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. At Montello, all the people getting together. I think I actually saw something like that. You know what? It's probably the wrong date, wrong year. This might have been 2018, so it's probably not relevant. Oh, low battery. Shit. I swear I saw some kind of barbecue celebration, memorial, parade, whatever the fuck you call it type video in Montello of people coming, visiting in the vehicles, the tractors, whatever, and they're all getting together and having fun. And like, I wonder if that video, even though it was back then, does it reveal like Kurt in the video, Jim Brenner, Venstra, anyone like that? Anyone, Ty Corbin maybe, Lance, did they show up in that video? I don't know if I can find it. You'd have to type it in Montello and look back, because just imagine if it actually showed someone there who's a person of interest now. That's kind of weird, before it all happened in the future, what was going to happen. Damn. Yeah. But one point I can put forward, if everyone was at the barbecue, I know it's across the border and it's already a ghost town, so you got to take that in mind, but let's just say, one of those situations, if everyone is diverted away, just like the decoy situation with the key fob, if everyone is too busy having fun, having a good time, maybe music playing and like all kinds of noises going on, it's like, could anything have happened, some kind of plan, some kind of scouting, some kind of stalking, whatever, with Dylan? Because whilst Dylan is seeding, okay, Dylan is seeding. Is that inappropriate the way I worded that? Oh, shit. Whilst Dylan is planting seeds. Why does that just suddenly sound so weird all of a sudden? Why is my mind going like that? What's going on with me? Can it fix me? But what I'm trying to get at, if I can actually get it out my fucking mouth, is whilst Dylan is doing his own thing, he's alone, kind of vulnerable, he's focused on one thing. Someone could sneak up behind him. Now, it would be appreciated if someone can confirm the date, because it's important. What date was that barbecue on? What date? You know, was it before the 27th or after the 27th of May? Feel free to let me know, because that would help and be appreciated, okay? What's the other points? So Candice did mention that she is staying strong. She has to, because of who she is and family around, helping each other out, rallying around, doing this and that. Got to try and distract oneself and keep on going. And she did say that, I think it was more in response to the whole situation of her not showing too much emotion in the interviews and stuff. And she said, what, do you want me to be a blubbering mess, crying all over the place? Would you still watch then? You know, it's one of those things where it depends who you listen to. You get some people that are quite strict and harsh that will say, no emotion, that's it, they're dodgy, case closed, they're the one to blame, that's it. But someone like me, in my mindset is, okay, they're not showing certain emotions. Does that mean they're directly dodgy, suspicious? Not quite. It could be because they're trying to hold it together, because if they break, then everybody else breaks around him, like the domino effect. So there's a bit of pressure there to keep focus. And, you know, just like when it comes to making progress in the case, if it's already a complete mess, you're more determined than ever to try and keep things together. So whilst authorities, the police and other departments might be messing up and going all over the place, if she can at least keep control of something, at least the dates, the times, as best as she can, then that helps keep the case active and some form of hope within her. You can get some people that come in and criticise and say, oh, she's being delusional, too hopeful, but you know, there's only so much you can do, and people do think or react differently. So yeah, I guess you can interpret differently. I mean, I've seen it where she was on the verge of crying, which is normal, but holding it back because she wants to get the story out. You know, if she's being interviewed, she's going to try and focus extra hard to be able to get the story out there when it hasn't been all the other times. No press releases, no press conferences, so she's got to do all the work. So in a way, you could say there's more pressure on her to deliver the information and what we should know of. And yeah, because she did say that behind the scenes at times she does kind of like break, which is normal. So just thought I'd point that out because it was mentioned in the live video. Was there anything else? But linking back to the boots, even before they were taken to the labs, Candice said that the police instantly said it was a small drop of blood on Dylan's boot, just a small drop. But the boots, although the blood before taken to the lab was classified as Dylan's blood somehow, they couldn't confirm that they were Dylan's boots, and it's still like that now. So that's a bit weird. So basically, you can tell it's Dylan's blood without actually testing, but you can't confirm it's Dylan's boots. So how does that explain things? Does that tie in with the idea that the suspect or a suspect was wearing those boots when taking out Dylan and then tried chucking the boots away, hiding them poorly? That could be it, maybe. And why is it only a droplet of blood? Is it because the blood went elsewhere? Like, is there any other stains, any other marks on other clothing or on the ground? Is it just a small droplet of blood because it was like a nosebleed? Or it'd be punched in the nose, or just some kind of normal natural nosebleed at some point? Does make you think, doesn't it? So yeah. And finally, this was interesting, and this is kind of like the last point which I'll mention, okay? The last key one. When Doug asked Candice about Ellen Berg. If you don't know who Ellen Berg is, I mean, some people like it, other people are a bit like, whoa, calm down, boy, type situation. You know, how do I summarize? Basically, Ellen Berg called Jim Terry a little prick. And then Ellen Berg said, come on then, bring it, boy. Come on, bring it to me or something. I don't know, something like that. It's like dodgy language, okay? Maybe not on my level. Let's forget about that. But she can be a bit confrontational, but I guess that's when she's drunk, okay? But Doug brought it up, and I think it's to do in relation to what Jim Terry previously said about when he had that audio recording of Ellen Berg, secretly recording a conversation with her and Candice Cooley when they were at a casino, okay? And Doug reiterated that and brought it up about, are you okay with Ellen? Do you think she's okay, despite her secretly recording you? And Candice was like, yeah, I've got no problem with her. She's a good person, she's nice, got no issues whatsoever. She wants to record, she can. And it's like, right, okay. Candice was like, well, you can do secret recordings if you want to. It shouldn't be any issue. If you're not suspicious, if you're not hiding anything, then there's no need to like get in a tiff, get angry, etc. But this is the thing. If it's correct in what's being said, Jim Terry originally said that with that audio recording, whilst them being at the casino, that Candice basically confessed and said that her son is gay. So I guess that means it's back on the tables, right? That it's been confirmed, right? And that Candice has got nothing to hide. So that Dylan Rounds is gay. Now, people will always refer back and say, does it really matter? Who cares? Etc. etc. Well, it depends how people respond to that. That's the thing. People in the area. For, you know, how do I word it without people getting triggered? Let's say someone like Jim Brenner. Multiple factors. Jim Brenner is on land which Dylan might want to take over and buy. Dylan is young as well, so you got that power dynamic. Brenner being spoken down to by Dylan at a point in time, maybe, for an argument, disagreement, and that Dylan is gay. Maybe Jim doesn't like gay people. He doesn't like younger people talking down to him, and he doesn't like people getting control, getting land when he should own it. You see all those different factors could really frustrate him, like as a whole, collectively, and think, who do you think you are? Sit down, like that. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to that theory about Dylan and his status. And if he is that way, then is there any people that were in a relationship with Dylan that could share information or their own experience if they know something? You know, that sort of stuff. Maybe with time, we might know. But for now, I think that concludes the video. Apologies if it's long. My mouth, my throat is fucked. Okay, it's very dry and a bit rough at the back. Fix me. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do have any additional points or questions, feel free to list them down below. It's been a while since, I guess, an interview has come about with Candice, although I said it's not like a big breaking news update. It's just going over things, re-clarifying, reinforcing, filling in the blanks type stuff, as well as giving my own thoughts and opinions in response to it. Okay, you can do the same down below. I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is, and we'll see what happens next. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.